So, I recently released a new EP.
I'm really glad that we're here. I've been going crazy every day.
If you'd like to check out the new EP, it is called Like a Friend. You can also find this on your favorite streaming platforms. And every time I go through a big milestone where I've put in a lot of effort and I've worked really hard on it, I always get a bit reflective and I tend to reflect on the journey that I've had so far as a singer, as a musician, and as an artist. And so today I really wanted to reflect on some of the lessons, some of the experiences, some of the things that I'd love to share with you all over these past 11 years, from being really, really bad at singing to the point where my very first voice teacher told me to go see a doctor, to releasing music of my own. This video really is to a younger version of me, maybe someone who is wanting to pursue music, someone who's wanting to get better at singing, but maybe you don't see the path at the moment. And so I wanted to share some of my lessons here today, and it's going to go a bit deeper than, the usual vocal tips, the vocal tutorials that I share. Some of the things I'm sharing here are lessons that I've kept with really close to me for the past 11 years. So make sure to stay right to the end because I think these 3 lessons are going to really serve you. So lesson number 1, become a world-class learner. And the reason why this is important is my journey as a singer, my journey learning how to sing was never actually easy. It was actually pretty tough because I started from a very low baseline. I still remember, one of my very first voice lessons, right? My first voice teacher told me to go see a doctor. And it was because I was so bad to the point that she thought I had a medical condition. And so this goes to show that I really didn't start off with a great baseline. But really what helped me overcome these hardships and, allowed me to keep going, because a lot of people gave up, was coming across this idea of becoming a world-class learner and also coming across the idea of neuroplasticity of our brain. Basically, our brains are so malleable and are so capable of learning. And this actually came from a person I follow, Tom Bilyeu, who's the founder of Impact Theory. And he kind of shared a lot about this concept. This is something that I really took to heart and I've kept it with me for over these past 11 years because every time I would struggle, every time I would face some hardships, every time I felt like I'd gone back to level 0, I would focus on becoming a world-class learner, shifting my focus to, instead of feeling bad about myself, instead of feeling like, wow, maybe I just don't have talent, right? I would focus on how could I learn? How could I improve? How can I get better? And I think this is the thing that a lot of people lack. A lot of people who are trying to get better at singing, every time they bump into this little wall, they bump into something that doesn't work for them, they, either give up or they slack off. But rather, I think you should lean into that. If you're truly someone who's prioritizing learning above all, you would lean into that uncomfortability and you try to take the lesson from that. By the way, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan. I am a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world on Zoom. And really on this channel, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So for you, you don't have to make the same mistakes that I have. And so if this is something of interest, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the team. And also check out some of the links in the description. I've got ways to work with me more privately over Zoom, or if you're interested in something a bit more self-study, I've also got you down there as well. So let's jump back in and I'm going to share with you how you can actually start becoming a world-class learner. So one of the easiest ways in terms of becoming a world-class learner, and this is actually going to be super, super obvious, is calling yourself a world-class learner. And this is actually something that I used to do all the time. When I'd be walking to the station, the train station, I would repeat this in my mind. I'm a world-class learner. I'm a world-class learner. I'm a world-class learner. Or maybe when I'm just in the shower, I will repeat that. And I know it sounds a bit kind of like, crazy or sounds a bit kind of quirky, but it does work because, after doing that for years, now when you tell me, I have like zero doubt that I am a world-class learner. And this kind of spills into a lot of my actions, a lot of the way I think, right? Now when I go and have setbacks, when there are challenges that, push back on me, rather than saying, I'm such a failure, I can't do this, I will seek the opportunity. And this is just because I made this simple action of repeating this identity. Because who you are is going to dictate a lot of the actions that you will take. And so the first part really is maybe on a notepad or maybe on your walks, just really drilled in this new identity for yourself. Now, the second part, and this is actually something that I've also kept really closely with me, is find someone who has done what you're trying to do and seek to learn from them. Over these past 11 years, I would say about 8 to 9 years of them, I have been studying with a voice teacher, because I think there's so much to learn and I think there's so much I can grow. And I think when you study with someone there, they can call you out or they can give you a lot of feedback that you might not be able to figure out on your own sometimes. And the reason why I'm sharing this is there is this kind of weird prestige I kind of see in the singing communities, or like on Reddit, on YouTube, of people going, I'm a self-taught singer, I've done this all on my own. And I feel like this is such a weird prestige because it's almost as if, if I was self-taught, if I did everything by myself, that somehow I'm better. And there's really no shame in learning from someone else. And if you have the humility to learn from someone else, I think that kind of reflects on you even more. And so I'd really encourage, this is where voice teachers are at. This is where, taking voice lessons is at. And I totally get it. Sometimes the finances, or maybe you don't have enough time or your schedule doesn't allow it. I totally get that. And the only thing I encourage here is don't let that be an excuse, right? Maybe it is a reality. Maybe right now you don't have the time and money for it, but are you trying to solve that? Because if you're not trying to solve that, then you're basically just using that as an excuse. And even if you couldn't take voice lessons at the moment, you can still treat every interaction you have as a learning experience. A voice teacher is just one way of doing this. And Kobe Bryant, one of the best basketball players, actually said this: once you know what it is in life that you want to do, then basically the whole world becomes your library. If you're trying to improve your singing, right? Look beyond just the vocal tips, look beyond just, the voice lessons, but every interaction you have can be a great way to improve your voice. Maybe just understanding how to keep your body healthy, that's definitely going to help your voice become better. Now, lesson number 2, habits and discipline is always going to beat willpower. And the reason why this is important is even though I decided to become a world-class learner from a pretty early age, actually, undoubtedly it still took time. I've seen so many transformations here on YouTube, people having crazy vocal transformations in a couple of years, in months, in even weeks sometimes. And frankly, this was not the case for me. Every step was a struggle. Concepts that I now teach my students and they kind of get it in a week, a couple of days, for me took years, right? And on top of this, for the first couple of years of my journey, I've kind of shared this many times, I actually built some bad vocal habits. And so not only did I not get better, but I actually got worse from practicing. It's taken such a long time to unlearn some of the habits and to be able to build some of the skills and habits that I can do with my voice now today. And because learning how to sing took such a long time for me, a big lesson here for me was learning the skill of practicing daily, building it in as a habit and as a discipline. Because the obvious is here. A lot of us know that if we want to get better at singing, we need to practice, and we need to practice frequently, if not daily. But a lot of us often don't. Now, I've always been wondering why this is the case. Why is it that people are able to kind of keep consistent, they can keep the discipline, but then on the other hand, there are these other people who want to get better at singing, but they just don't seem to do anything. And I think the difference here is habits and discipline allow you to do things even when you don't feel like it. You've literally built this skill of, even if I don't feel like doing it, I will still take action. Whereas for some people who want to get better at singing, but they're relying on, willpower, they're relying on motivation, they're relying on me feeling good, that is a bit of a trap, because basically every time you don't feel like it, you don't do it. And you never let the cycle build. You kind of just let your emotions get the best of you. So how do we actually build habit and discipline? For a lot of us, we might kind of think of discipline or habits as this really unattainable, magical thing, or thing that, you could never do. But the reality is this, habits and disciplines are built one brick at a time. Now, think of it like this. You probably don't think about brushing your teeth or having to shower each day. You kind of just go and do it. Or maybe some of you do, I don't know. But I promise you, early on in your life, maybe when you first started doing it, it was something that you had to be trained to do. Maybe your parents had to get you to actually brush your teeth. They have to guide you and get you to do it. But because you've done it so many years and you kept going, you've now built in this habit where you don't even think twice. You can't just get up and you go and do it. What if singing practice was the same thing? Because you built it one brick at a time, it's now become a lifestyle for you. right? You don't have to think about should I practice or should I not practice. You just go and do it. For those of you who are down with me to build discipline and to build some habits, a couple of tips here. So the first thing is always start small and start consistent. Prioritize consistency over long practice sessions. And what I mean by this is when I first started singing, I would do endless hours of singing. I would practice for hours and hours and hours, and I'd feel like, wow, I'm making a lot of progress. But maybe because I was so burnt out or I was so tired, I would kind of skip practice for the next couple of days. But what I realized is this is not the best strategy to improve your voice. Sure, you're winning in that short term, but it's kind of a bit like the tortoise and the hare. The one that's going to win is the one that's going to be able to do it consistently over long periods of time. And so why not just make those practice sessions shorter and just do it more consistently, right? Rather than 3 hours or 4 hours a week on that one session, just break it down to 15, 20 minutes that you can do every single day. And frankly, this is actually something I still do every day. Every day I practice twice and I do it for 30 minutes. If you can just keep that habit, that's going to stack up much nicer than those 3 hours once a week. And this brings me to lesson number 3. Stop waiting. Stop the waiting syndrome. And what I mean by this is, from deciding to become a world-class learner, adopting the identity of a world-class learner, slowly but surely building the habits and the discipline, I've seen a lot of growth in my singing, my own music over the past 11 years, being able to build more range for my voice, sing songs that I've always, dreamt of, teaching students of my own, and to now releasing music as well. I've seen a lot of growth, but at the same time, I also feel like an absolute beginner because I'm now embarking on a new chapter in my life. And basically, this is a little promise that I made to myself. My goal is actually to write 100 songs. And this is something I've called Project 100. I'm about 8 songs in and about 92 left to go. But by the end, of this chapter, or at least by the end of my life, I'd like to write 100 songs that, can inspire people, share some of the thoughts that I have, and have it be listened to all around the world. And of course, the initial reaction was the usual, the self-doubt, who would listen to you, Ivan? Who am I to call myself a singer, songwriter? Like, why would I even try to write 100 songs? But you know what? Because of the experiences I've had in singing, I'm not gonna let this stop me. I'm not gonna fall for the waiting syndrome. And I see this with a lot of musicians who have much more talent than me, much more experience than me. A lot of them don't even have a song to their name. And so if this message speaks to you, if this message calls you, stop waiting. If there's something in your heart that you want to do, something you want to pursue, go for it, even if you don't feel like you're ready, even if you feel like you're not good enough, because I promise you, from you taking the action, from you actually going to chase it, that is the thing that's going to help you improve and get the skills anyway. Because the very first song I released, I felt the exact same way. I was not good. I didn't feel like I was, I had the skills. I didn't even know how to tune my own vocals. But, 8 songs later, I can say I'm able to do a lot more as a singer, as a producer, as a songwriter, things that I was not able to do in my first song. I've even now got friends reaching out to me to get me to produce their songs. None of this happened if I had not taken that first step, if I had fallen for this waiting syndrome, if I had told myself, I have to wait for this, I need to be a bit better, I need to spend some time, thinking about it. No, just go for it. Let me make the mistakes. Let me learn from that. Let me choose to be a world-class learner and I will figure it out. And so team, this is a wrap. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please share this with a friend or family. This can help our community grow even more and even stronger. And if you'd like to check out the new EP, it is called Like a Friend. You can also find this on your favorite streaming platforms. And last but not least, if today's episode has inspired you to take action, to improve your voice, and to actually go for what you want, check out some of the links once again in the description. I've got ways to work with me privately over Zoom and also some self-study programs that are designed to build your voice. Team, apart from that, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Ivan, your voice teacher from down under in Australia, and I'll see you for a weekly episode every single Thursday or Friday, depending on where you're joining me from. Take care. I'll see you soon.